Hi again, guys, and welcome to the first episode in a few weeks of Beards and Cars. And for those who are maybe new to the channel as a whole within the last couple of weeks, and there are certainly plenty of people who are, this is a series which is more informal than the rest of the videos. It's not really about specific tuning or car reviews. It's more of a general video talking about stuff which has been happening on the channel, stuff which maybe is going to happen, or even totally different things that maybe are just YouTube related, or cars in general, that kind of stuff. Now, there were a couple of questions from the last episode which you guys dropped down in the comments, and as I've said before, I'm always open to having comments to discuss in this video or in these videos down the line. So if there's something that you'd like to hear me discuss, or discuss with me even in the comments, then of course you can drop that down below each episode. Always the newest episode is the best place to put your questions, because those are the ones that I tend to check. Now, there are a couple of questions, as I said, from the last one. One of them was a fairly simple one. Have I seen Initial D? I've seen part of it, if I remember correctly. The live action one. I don't think I've seen the whole thing. I can't remember why I didn't watch the whole thing, because I don't recall not liking it. I don't know if I had to leave or go somewhere or something like that, but I don't think I watched the whole movie. I believe I'd got up around the point where the AE86 was going to take on an FC RX-7 or something like that, a grey one, a grey RX-7 or a silver one, something like that. I think it was like the equivalent in the movie of like one of the best guys on the hill, or a boss battle, kind of. I think, if memory serves, that was the part of the film that I'd got up to anyway. But no, I haven't seen the whole thing. The bits that I saw seemed interesting. I believe originally it was a manga, right? I haven't read the manga. I think there's also an anime, isn't there? I believe, of Initial D. As I've said before, I don't really follow car-related movies that much, which might seem strange given how much I talk about them on YouTube and how much I love them. But generally speaking, I'm not really a fan of most car films, and that is something that I have discussed before in this series. My favourite car film, or driving-related film, would have to be Duel, Spielberg's first film, by far, because it's just a great movie, regardless of whether or not it's about driving. And my second favourite would have to be the much more recent Rush, which, again, I have talked about before. Excellent film. But apart from that, there are still quite a few that I haven't seen. I haven't seen Vanishing Point, or Bullet, or The French Connection, or any of those Statham movies that have a lot of driving in. Is it The Mechanic, I guess? That would make sense. But there's loads of those that I haven't watched. I do love movies, but most of the movies that I watch aren't car-related, because 9 times out of 10, I think that they are kind of insulting to anyone who knows anything about cars, especially stuff like Fast and Furious, Need for Speed, Torque, those kind of movies. They're ridiculous. The only reason why I give Torque a pass is because it features my favourite motorbike, the Y2K. But even then, it's used in a ridiculous sequence in the movie where somehow a tuned up chopper manages to keep up with that bike, which is so dumb. But whatever. So yeah, I've seen bits at least of Initial D. It seemed interesting enough, but I might revisit it at some point. I don't know. And another question from the same person, actually, Valley, on YouTube, was my favourite cars in both the newer and older categories. And I don't know if you meant just in general, but you listed 3 in particular, and that was hatchbacks, sedans, and trucks, basically, or SUVs. As far as hatchbacks go, my modern favourite hatch, and of course it would depend on where you draw the line between classic and modern, because if you're talking the absolute latest stuff, I don't think I really have a favourite. I'm not a huge fan of any of the current generation hatchbacks, be it the Focus, the Megane, the Civic. I don't really like any of those that much. My most recent favourite hot hatches would be around the 2007 to 2009 era. And in particular, I love the second generation Ford Focus RS, of course in lime green. Gorgeous car, fantastic hot hatch. A guy near me owns one. He's got a white one though. Oh well, we all make mistakes. And the Renault Megane. The Renault Megane, as I've discussed before, in the, not the current generation, but the big-ass version, the one that was marketed that way. That one I love. The R26 in particular is my favourite in yellow. The R26R not so much, because it lost the practicality. They added the roll cage and the Lexan windows, and that's all well and good. It has, or it had, the Nuremberg Ring lap record. That's good for them. But I like my performance cars to have a level of practicality. That's why most of my dream cars are stuff like the Ferrari FF, the Tesla P100D, the Aston Martin Rapide, those cars that do have great performance, but they're also genuinely practical as well. The Lamborghini LM002 is another one of my dream cars, or the Savage Rival. That is way up there with the Ferrari FF for me as being my absolute dream vehicle. Because again, it's got that practicality. You've got the extra seats, you've got some trunk space, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I love the R26. It's one of the best hardcore modern hatchbacks. I like the fact that it looks great, but it's sort of understated at the same time. It doesn't need stupid air intakes and crazy stripes or big wings or anything like that. It's just a good looking car, at least for me. Now, as far as older hatchbacks, for older hatchbacks, I've got to say I'm pretty partial to a Renault 5 Turbo. I am a big fan of the Renault 5 Turbo, in particular the Turbo 2, and I love it when it's totally white. Not white with black bumpers, but completely white, with white rims as well, with Turbo on the side in black. That looks fantastic, I think. But generally speaking, I'm a big fan of anything that's homologated for rallying. So like the Delta Evo 2. To be fair, the Delta has always been one of my favourite hot hatches, in yellow in particular. I love that car. Beyond that, I like the Golf. I think it's the Golf Mark II, I believe it is. Yeah, it's the Mark II, the G60. And there's also one called the Golf Rally of the second generation. It's a really rare, better than the GTI version, which is powerful. It's got a big, boxy, almost BMW E30 M3 style body kit, which just looks fantastic to me. Ultra rare. I'm really surprised that Forza hasn't featured that car. Gran Turismo maybe not, I can understand why they haven't, but Forza would usually feature cars like that quite a bit, so I'm kind of surprised that they haven't. Obviously stuff like the 205, the Peugeot 205 T16, that's a nice car. Stupidly expensive though, and again, not overly practical. I mean, neither is the Renault 5 in turbo form, but still. So yeah, rally homologated ones tend to be my favourites of the older generation. If I could own any classic hatch, my first thought always goes to the Delta, so that's probably the one I would choose. I'm a huge fan of the Talbot Sunbeam Lotus as well, but I think if I could actually choose any, it would probably be a Delta Evo 2 in yellow. And also, I'm a massive K-car fan. As many of you guys know, I love K-cars. I have a huge amount of respect for what they accomplish with the specs that they're given. I think my favourite in that regard would have to be the Daihatsu Move, not the Core. I love the Daihatsu Core, and of course I love the Storia, which isn't a K-car, but just as a hot hatch in general, I would love to own a Daihatsu Storia Cross 4. But I think my favourite Daihatsu might be the Daihatsu Move SRXX, which is the total, senior citizen spec Daihatsu. It's the one with the roof racks and the really high roof and the 5 doors, but it's the performance version. And that one is on Gran Turismo. It's got similar specs to the Core, but it is available in all-wheel drive as well. And I really like those. There's a website on the net called, I think it's Goo Exchange or something like that, which is, an unfortunate name, but it's like used Japanese cars. And there are loads of gorgeous little K-cars on that site, and if you look up the Daihatsu Move SRXX, even the R4 version, there are some dirt cheap models. I saw one on there for like £400 or £500, or the equivalent of that. Of course, most of the cost for someone like me getting a car like that would be the import. Plus then you've got the issue of finding insurance, because when you look up stuff like that under insurance companies, most of them don't have performance models of Daihatsus listed because they were never officially sold here. So that's always an issue with those. They have the Storia, or the Syrian as it's called here in the UK. They have the Move, they have the Core, but they never have the performance versions listed. So you've always got to go down like import insurance companies. But yeah, I think overall my 3 favourite hatches would be the Delta from back in the day, the Daihatsu Move from the late 90s, and then for the modern generation, I think the Megane R26. I love the Focus, but the Megane would just edge it out for me. As far as sedans is a very broad category. I guess you'd include super saloons in that as well. Back in the day, I don't have that many favourites. I know a lot of people love stuff like the Lotus Carlton. I've never been a fan of that car It's very fast, which is cool, but I don't really love it that much. There aren't many Vauxhalls that I like, to be honest. I like the Lancia Thema 8.32, which is a pretty obscure older sports sedan, which was actually fitted with a Ferrari engine, kind of a unicorn Lancia. That's a nice car, not overly quick, not as quick as you'd expect it to be with a Ferrari engine, but yeah, that's a cool concept. I like that. As far as modern sedans go, like super saloons, let's see. I don't know if there are any that I really love. I'm a fan of the Alpha 159 in terms of the way it looks, but that's not really a super saloon. If they'd have made a GTA version, that would have been gorgeous. Actually, speaking of the GTA, that is one that I really like. The Alpha 156 GTA, that is a very, very nice sports sedan. Such a good looking car. I'm a huge fan of the Alpha 147 and 156 GTAs. Current generation, I don't think there's any which I love of the current generation, apart from the Tesla. Obviously, the Tesla Model S is easily my favourite modern sedan, and then if you're going up into the exotic saloon territory, you know, stuff like the Aston Martin Rapide, then that one would definitely be my favourite. And technically, I guess you could say that the Sauvage Revol is kind of a saloon or a sedan, because it's a four-door, four-seater. Technically not, but at the same time, kind of is. It's a supercar with 4 doors and 4 seats, so you could kind of say that that is one. As far as pickup trucks or SUVs, I'm not really a huge truck fan. Of the two, I do definitely prefer SUVs. As far as trucks go, I like the Ford F-150 Raptor. The first generation Raptor in particular is a really nice truck. There was a while that I really wanted one of those in real life. That was like one of my dream trucks. Not so much now, I kind of moved on from that. The Dodge Ram has always had a soft spot for me. Not necessarily the SRT-10, but more so just the actual normal Dodge Ram, like the 1500 quad cab or the 3500. Always the quad cab. I have no interest in single cab pickups because, again, I like to have the practicality there of having the double cab with the extra seats. That appeals to me. For classic trucks, the Ford F-100 is pretty nice, but I can't remember what it was called. There's a Russian truck on Google, and it's slammed. It's got a chop top. It's like a pale blue with a white front end, and it's a Russian truck. It's a ZIL. I remember that. I can't remember the model name, but let's have a quick look, actually. First time in Beards and Cars, a Google search. ZIL slammed truck. Let's see if I can find it. Nope, that's not specific enough. Let's try blue. If it was a ZIL, I'm not sure. This must be riveting to listen to. Aha, there it is. It's the first result. Let's see if we can find a name. It's all in Russian. The ZIL... Is it a ZIL 407? It's listed under 407. I don't know. Let's have a look. ZIL 41047. Let's have a look at that one. No, that's not it. 407. No. Oh well. That was a waste of time. But anyway, yeah, it's if you type in ZIL blue slammed truck, it's literally the first image that comes up. It's a gorgeous looking machine. So yeah, I like obscure stuff like that. As far as modern SUVs go, I must admit I have a real soft spot for the Saab 9-7. That's not an SUV that many people talk about. I believe it's based on the Lincoln Continental platform, like the previous generation. Not the Continental, the Navigator, I should say. The Lincoln Navigator. But yeah, I like Saabs. I like stuff that's a bit oddball, like Saab, Skoda, that kind of thing. And I like the way that Saab has this alternate style. Like Volvo is very conservative, almost very German these days, whereas Saab, of course, they didn't last, but when they were around, they always had something which was really different to anything else. And the Saab 9-7 to me looks really good. The Saab style suits being an SUV, I think. I also love the Cadillac Escalade. Not so much the latest one, but the previous one. The latest GMC Yukon, I think, looks pretty nice. As I said earlier, I love the Lamborghini LM002, so I guess technically that is a truck that I do love, actually. And for older SUVs, I am partial to a Hummer. I do like the Hummer H1 Alpha in the truck, or not the truck, in the SUV form rather than the truck form. And as I've said before, I think I've said before, a Hummer is actually one of my dream tuning projects in real life. I would love to buy a mint condition Hummer H1 SUV, paint it black, and then rip out the entire drivetrain so it gets rid of that useless 300 horsepower Duramax diesel or whatever engine it's running. I think it's a Duramax, which gets like 3 miles per gallon. I don't know how they manage that, but get rid of that, get rid of the gearbox, and instead of that, fit it with, and I know a lot of people who love Hummers will hate this, but it really speaks to what I love. I would buy 2 rear motors from a Tesla 100P, or 100P, P100 even, D, because the rear motors in a Tesla are always more powerful than the front. I believe the P100 and also the P95 have something like 560 or 570 horsepower from the rear motors and like 200 and something from the front. So I'd get 2 of the rear motors, if at all possible, and fit them on the front and the back of a Hummer, have them all linked up and all that kind of thing, maybe get it done by Tesla for me as a custom, and have it so that it's a direct drive, fully EV Hummer, fill the engine bay with batteries, and you'd probably still end up weighing less than it initially did anyway. I'd strip out a load of excess weight, maybe replace some panels with lighter weight materials, give it a better interior. I would gut out the seats, so instead of having a 2+2, it would be a 4+4, so you'd actually have 8 seats plus all of the trunk space at the back. So I'd basically take a Hummer and make it better in terms of practicality, again, but then I would also fit it with these 2 Tesla motors so that you'd be running well over 1,000 horsepower, like I guess that would be probably 1,100 horsepower or more, and probably a similar amount of torque. In fact, no, it would be a lot more torque. I can't recall how much torque a Tesla has at the moment, at least not from one of the motors, but you're going to be well over 1,000 foot-pounds, easily. And in a direct drive Hummer, I reckon I could probably get a Hummer to weigh maybe 300, 400 kilos less than it started out as by converting it to this, because of course the batteries still weigh a lot, but I reckon the drop in weight from the motors compared to the engine and the drivetrain would probably make a big difference. Plus gutting out all the needless stuff from the interior, not a stripped out track day car, but just less weight than originally. Yeah, I think you could probably get 300 or 400 kilos out of it, if not maybe a bit more. So you'd still be over 3 tons, but now you'd have more power and torque than a Veyron. So yeah, pretty quick, I'd say. I don't know how fast that would be, obviously not as quick as a Tesla, but you could potentially have yourself a Hummer that could hit 60 in maybe 4 seconds, maybe a little bit less, because it's all-wheel drive with no lag to the power and torque. So yeah, I reckon probably 4 seconds you could get out of it, maybe. Top end wise, well, you'd only be looking at the same as a Tesla, if that, probably a drop due to the aerodynamics. Teslas are limited to 150-ish anyway to protect the batteries, so probably 130 in a Hummer, even with that kind of power, maybe more. So yeah, that would be like my dream SUV project. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I'm not really a huge fan of modifying cars. I don't dislike the concept, but there are only very specific vehicles that I'd want to do that to. I'm not the kind of person who would want to buy, for instance, like a Skyline or a Supra and then put a body kit on it and all that kind of stuff. If I start playing Need for Speed, then I'll do all of that. I turn into a total racer. But in real life, I would never really have any interest in doing that. The kind of projects that I would do would be more stuff like undercover engine swaps and making like sleeper vehicles. Another one of my dream projects would be to get a classic Rolls Royce, slam it to the floor with like rusty, not rat look, but rusty bodywork, kind of like the derelict Rolls Royce that was featured on Jay Leno's Garage recently. It would look like that, like a really understated old school paint job with rusty bodywork, white wall tyres, maybe like steel rims, slammed to the ground with stiffer suspension, but I'd fit it with a Rolls-Royce Allison series turbine engine instead from the Y2K motorbike. So you'd have like a 320 horsepower Rolls-Royce which could do I mean, it depends on the aerodynamics and the gearbox, but I'd probably fit it with a custom CVT, because the main problem with a gas turbine as well is the lack of correct gear ratios, really. And the gear ratios that you get in a normal gearbox don't really get the best out of a turbine, whereas with a CVT you can get, of course, the best ratios for any given moment. So do that kind of thing. That would be a dream project. I'd also love to make a gas turbine powered Cobra, a Shelby Cobra, silver, no stripes. Again, basically the same setup. And another one of my dream projects, again, it probably bores some people, but it would be another turbine, is I would love to buy a used Formula Ford, because you can pick those up for like £4,000 or £5,000, make it street legal, gut out all of the mechanics, so it's basically a go-kart anyway, and then fit it with a really small turbine. Maybe a turbine from like a one-man helicopter, something like that. I don't know how much power they're running, but it could be anywhere between like 60 and 150 horsepower. But because it's a turbine, it would be real fast. 150 horsepower or so in a little Formula Ford. They weigh like 400 kilos anyway. Again, fit it with a really small CVT. Maybe take the CVT from something else and put it on there, match it up. A little bit of like a barn build. Because at the end of the day, I wouldn't even care how fast it was. It would be more just the fun of driving a little gas turbine Formula Ford. So yeah, those are the kind of projects that I'd love to do. And I guess we really got off track from trucks. But yeah, it all started from the Hummer discussion. But yeah, stuff like that appeals to me. And I guess that would be my favourite SUVs overall. The Audi Q7, the V12 TDI, is a personal favourite of mine as well. Mercs, I like the GL320, first generation. Not a fan of the ML. I'm not a fan of Mercedes trucks and SUVs in general, actually. Never liked the Porsche Cayenne. Not a fan of any of the modern BMW ones. So most of the modern SUVs that I like actually tend to be American ones. Because I think if you're going to buy an SUV, just get something big, classy, or that's debatable. I know some people don't think they are, but I do. Something big and comfortable that just whisks you along with effortless power. That's, to me, what Americans are very good at doing when it comes to SUVs. Like the Escalade, the Saab 9-7, they're just big, comfortable, I would say good-looking SUVs. But yeah, beyond that, that's basically the questions that were left. So another thing that I did want to discuss, and probably not for very long because I don't want the video to be overly long, is about the changes in schedule on the channel with GT Sport, Forza 7, and also what I've been calling the odd man videos, because I don't know how much attention you guys pay to the schedule on the channel. Obviously I release teasers on Facebook, usually on Sunday or Monday, as to what the videos for the coming week are going to be, in particular the reviews, so that you can guess ahead of time and play a little bit of a game, see if you're right. But recently that kind of changed. I was giving out less teasers, last week in particular, because I've totally rearranged the schedule on the channel now. Because now what I've been doing, for those that maybe haven't noticed, is I do at least one Gran Turismo Sport video every day. I do at least one Forza 7 video every day, and then the third video is the odd man. It's the interchangeable one. So on Monday it could be Gran Turismo 6, or this week, for instance, as an example, on Monday I did a Horizon 3 tune setup, I requested one. Then on Tuesday we did a Gran Turismo 2 review. Then on Wednesday we did a Gran Turismo 6 review. Then on Thursday we did Unsung Heroes, and then on Friday another Gran Turismo 6 video. Today, this video is the odd man, so later today there'll be Forza 7 and GT Sport, and tomorrow, Sundays, the photo mode competition is always the odd man video, and then the other ones are usually rivals. Usually though I would only do 2 videos on a Sunday, because again this is kind of a behind the scenes thing. Sunday, or Saturday and Sunday, but especially Sunday, is always my busiest day, because although I put out 2 videos instead of 3, I'm preparing loads of stuff for the coming week. So as to whether I'm going to do 3 videos on Sundays as well, I'm not sure about that, because the photo mode competition is about every game anyway, or any driving game, so that is the odd man video. Rivals tends to be a Gran Turismo thing. I haven't done any Forza Rivals videos, although it has been requested, and also people have asked, am I going to do that? I do definitely plan to, especially more so now with Forza Motorsport 7 rather than Horizon 3. It's just kind of more of a professional environment in the motorsport games. I might do some for Horizon as well, though. But I was wondering about doing like 2 Rivals videos each Sunday. But I know I won't be able to keep that up, because although the Rivals videos might not seem it, they require a lot more editing than I would usually do. Because like a movie review, for instance, or not a movie review, a car review, they're very easy to make. I just get a replay done to talk over, to give you something to look at, and then record my review. And then that's it. With a tune, I have to do some editing, because obviously I have to split it between the tuning side of things and then when we take the car out to see what it can do. So that's a little bit more. Whereas with Rivals, I have to cut an intro, an outro, individual car reviews, splice it all together, do individual car reviews, do an intro, do an outro, and then add in all of the specs and compare them and do all that. So there's a lot more editing for Rivals. And because I have to proof watch it to make sure that it's all right, of course that takes longer. They can be 10-15 minutes, so it takes me 10 or 15 minutes to record the actual gameplay, like in the game, I mean driving the cars, then another 10 to 15 minutes to record it with the capture card, then another 10 or 15 minutes to record all of the audio for it, and then another 10 or 15 to basically edit it and go through it and rewatch it. And that's a very conservative 15 minutes. It's probably double that easily. So all in all, you're looking at like a couple of hours easily to actually make each Rivals video. Whereas for a normal video, you can basically give me essentially 45 minutes notice and I can have a review out there from scratch, because that's just the way those videos work. With Rivals, that's not the case. So realistically, I don't think I'm going to be able to maintain doing a Forza and a Gran Turismo Rivals match. So I think what we might do is interchange them. And this might be the controversial thing, but I have been thinking, I might not do this, but I'm thinking about it, of having the Rivals playlist, which is where all of them are. I have playlists for all of the different series, of course, but the Rivals playlist is currently just for Gran Turismo, and I've been thinking of maybe having Rivals as an entire genre of its own, rather than just being a Gran Turismo version and a Forza version, just have them all together in that one, kind of like my miscellaneous videos playlist, where I just dump everything in there that isn't filed under another series. So I don't know, I might do one for Gran Turismo and Forza, or I might put them together and combine them. I don't know yet, but yeah. So Sunday might remain 2, the rest might remain 3. And I wanted to ask you guys about that, of course, what you thought about the past week. Not just in terms of the actual videos, but the way the videos have been done. Because I've very deliberately made big changes in the kind of layout that I have the schedules in. Because usually I do kind of the same thing each day of each week. That's what we were doing a long time with Gran Turismo 6. Now I'm not doing that at all. There's a tune here, a top 10 over there, a review here, an overall review of the game, for instance, like yesterday for GT Sport, and that is that video for the day. So I'd be interested in knowing whether or not you guys like that new layout. One of the reasons why I'm hoping that you do like it is because it keeps everything more fresh. It means that videos don't really get into a rut of, oh, it's Monday, another hatchback, oh, it's Thursday, another whatever, oh, it's, you know, another this on that day, or whatever like that. Whereas now it's, oh, it's Monday. I know there's going to be a GT Sport video. I have no idea what it's going to be, though. Could be a tune, could be a review, could be a top 10, could be a glitch, could be a tips and tricks video. Who knows? So I hope that you guys like that method. Of course, some people might not, but that's fair enough. And it allows me also a lot more creative freedom. Because when I'm doing the same things every week, it can get not monotonous, but I won't necessarily have the same level of passion. And I think that you can probably tell that sometimes. I don't know. But yeah, it keeps it more fresh. For Forza, for Gran Turismo, and then the Odd Man videos, again, they just act to break up any kind of routine. It gives you something totally different. Maybe you're not interested in Forza 7, but you want more than GT Sport. Maybe vice versa. Those third videos, they give you that. Something that's totally different. And, of course, Unsung Heroes, which back when we started that, it was a really rare series. I'd put like one here and then one 2 weeks later and one a month after that. But now it's every Thursday. And I must admit, I'm enjoying doing that every Thursday a lot more than I was expecting to, because I love telling you guys about cars that you might not have heard of, and just talking about really oddball vehicles, because as many of you know, oddball stuff is my forte. I love that. Mainstream cars generally don't appeal to me, whereas talking about those weird ones, I love it. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the past week. Views have gone up like crazy on the channel, thanks to GT Sport in particular. Forza 7 hasn't really exploded on the channel, but that's not surprising because I'm not primarily known for that. But yeah, pretty much every GT Sport video that I put out is getting around 1,000 views in a couple of days. The one from yesterday had 1,000 views in 15 hours, the overall review. But those always get more views. And yeah, I haven't checked it today. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. Let's have a look. Again, some exciting waiting for me to look up some numbers. I'm just going to check my analytics on YouTube. And I'm going to put on a calculator. And then we are going to work out what the current daily average views are, because it's been going up quite a bit. I posted on Facebook, I think last week sometime, that we were getting six or 6,500 views a day on the channel. So let's see what it is at the moment. Over the past 28 days, I've had 257,000 views. So 257. Oh, no, that's an extra zero. Bear with me. 257,000. Come on. Divided by the last 28 days. So yeah, wow, that's a big jump. 9,000, almost 9,200 views a day at the moment we're getting on the channel. And that's one of the reasons why I always have a chuckle when people come on the channel purely to hate, because the most common thing that those haters say is, oh, this channel's dead, oh, this channel's dying, you've got 10,000 subscribers and he's only getting 200 views a video. Oh, you're clearly new to the channel, my friend. 9,200 views a day, thank you very much. But yeah, it's going really well thanks to GT Sport. It was only a couple of weeks ago that I was doing the 10k giveaway, and now look, we're over 10,600. It's crazy. Of course, I always want to thank you guys for the constant support. It really is incredible on the channel. You literally made it what it is. Every day I can say that. And also I can say that every day the channel is bigger than it has ever been before. That's true. So it's pretty cool. And as I've said a number of times, I always plan to give back to the subscribers who made this channel what it is. And that's kind of more so the case when the channel is still small, because it still feels more personal at that point. And like with the giveaway, I can't afford to give something to everyone, but I can afford to give something back to some, at least. And that's always something that I've wanted to do. And I've kind of alluded in the past to the fact that I've wanted to do big things for fans on the channel. And that's still my plan. I cannot afford anywhere near to do the things that I want to do at the moment. But if the channel got big enough, and that would be a long way off, then there are some things that I plan to do for subscribers that I think you guys would be pretty stoked about. And I mean things that are way beyond giving away games. And you can probably brainstorm to yourself what some of those things might be, especially given the type of channel that this is, let's put it that way. So, yeah. I guess that's it for this installment. I said it was going to be shorter. It's actually one of the longest episodes so far. So I hope you haven't found it too boring. And as I said, you can slap stuff down below if you'd like to hear more. But that's about it. So, welcome to those who have joined since the last episode. And to the rest, I'll see you guys next time. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.